Tiddy-dum bum bum diddy-die. Dee-die-ya-ya diddy-die. Dee-da-da-ya-da-da. Diddy-dum bum ba-diddy-dum. Mm-hmm. Alrighty. Dee da dee da dee ya da do. Dee 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 dee. Alrighty. Yum ba da da yum ba dum bum. Alrighty. Tiddy-dum ba dee da yum ba. Dee 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 ya. Yo. Alrighty. Hey, not bad. Well, welcome to Tanya today. I'm Rabbi Fine, coming to you from Atlanta. I'll be back in Montreal soon. But in the meantime, we say hello to June in Australia, where it's very late, to Michael in Germany, where it's the afternoon. Zara's with us in Malaysia. It's an evening already. A good morning to Lynn in Long Island. And Eugenia in Calgary. A good Woch. Then Eugenia in Calgary, yes. Johan in California, welcome. Sarah is in Florida with us. Good morning. Joseph in New Jersey, where it's cold and brisk. Yes, seems to be the current trend. Winter is almost upon us. Meten, welcome. Shavua Tov. Davida and Liva, a good Woch. In New York, welcome. We have in the UK, Lisa is with us. A shining light. Diane is joining us in Arizona. Welcome. Rena in Colorado. Good morning. Andrew is in Springfield, New Jersey. Good morning. Elise is with us in West Virginia. Margot Lozata is in Poland with us. Alice is in Baltimore, her usual place. Simcha is in Florida. Carlos in Costa Rica. And we have with us Clubhousers, Michael, Andrea, David, Winson. We have Instagrammers from India, Vinod, Rare View, At a Glance, Yenta Telaventa, Akoy in Peru. We have Manuela in Germany has joined us. Mark is with us. Many. All right. Beautiful. Welcome. Alan, Ariel. All right, it's a doubleheader today, folks, if you remember, every Sunday. God willing, I will be back in Montreal later, giving the weekly Torah portion is at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. I don't know what's going to be, if it's going to be 6:30, somewhere between 6:30 and 7. That will be the class, just depending on getting into town. And TRC at 8 o'clock. Looking forward to that. We have Batya with us, and we have John in North Carolina, Shoshana Bina in the Maryland. Forgot now the name of the area. Somewhere in Baltimore, around Baltimore. Welcome. And Batya and David, all the way from Montreal. And Rachel in South Carolina. Okay. Oops. Sorry, 1 second. The 7th essay, Kuntres Achron, so we're coming to a close. Coming to a close of this cycle of Tanya, and of course, starting and beginning a new cycle. It says in Amos, in chapter 5, Tzedakah kenachal Eson. And charity is like a mighty river. Or tzedakah also means justice, like a mighty river that gushes, right? Revealing the depths of the water underneath. So that's what tzedakah does. It reveals the intensity of a mighty river. As river is a flow that emanates from the spring, from the Eitan, from that powerful place. So in mystical teachings, that is referred to Chokhmah and Bina. The flow of water is like the flow of ideas that go into in our head, that come from a source, which is Chokhmah. And in Kabbalistic terms, this is called Nekuda Behecholah, the point in the chamber. The point is Chokhmah, that's the flash of ingenuity, that's the seed of the entire idea. And then you, with that seed, you build a palace. Right? So we have the point that builds the palace. We have the source of the mighty river that flows. So we have Chokhmah and Bina. And they are called actually Trei Rein, the Lois Passion. The two friends that do not separate. Because Chokhmah needs Bina, Bina needs Chokhmah. Which gives us an understanding of male is Chokhmah, female is Bina, and they need each other. Because Chokhmah is just the point. And without the elaboration of that seed, you have nothing. But on the other hand, Bina needs to take the point and elaborate it. So they need each other. So the word Esan with an aleph in front of it makes it a future tense word in a future tense word. So the strength of this mighty river is, it hints to, at least the aleph here, it's part of the root of the word, but it hints to the time to come, the times of Mashiach, where then there will be the revealing of the divine wisdom in the divine understanding that will flow like a mighty river, that we will be able to get the point and build a beautiful edifice. That we will be able to get to the innermost point of our heart, that Chachma shines there, and therefore we will prosper materially and spiritually, because then God will be revealed. So we'll be able to take the point of the innermost point of the heart and build on it to reveal the mighty flow of the river. It's the two metaphors we have going here, which is quite remarkable. That we will then be able to allow the inner point of the heart to flow, because it won't be an obstruction of the outer layer of the heart. The outer layer of the heart will not be an obstruction, because it will be circumcised, meaning the outer layer of the heart is the natural desires and lusts that we have. Right? So that won't be an obstruction anymore. That will be removed, and therefore the inner point of the heart, right, that Chachma of the heart, will be able to be a mighty river that flows, and we will experience prospering materially and spiritually in every aspect of our lives, the divine connection. Now, today we can also have some kind of connection to that, some kind of glimmer and illumination of what we just spoke about, that state of Asan, the mighty, powerful flow of our innermost point of the heart, that it shouldn't just be the innermost point, just a point, but it build upon it, that it comes into a mighty flow of the river. We can attain some of that today, because after all, it is the true reality of what we are on the inside. Right? It's the innermost core of our heart. So we can have that today, illuminating ourselves by allowing that innermost point of the divine Chachma, innermost point, core of the heart, to be revealed. And not allowing the fact that we're in exile, that it should be shackled. That was the innermost point of who I am, could be revealed. How do we do this? In other words, there's an innermost love that we have in our heart, that point, that point of Chachma, of nullity, to be connected to God, that love, to be bound with our source. It's there. But how are we going to get it? How are we going to reach it? So this is the idea that Yaakov redeems Abraham. Jacob redeems Abraham. Abraham is the embodiment of love and kindness, and sometimes it's stuck. It's in exile. You don't feel the connection. So what do you need? Jacob redeems. Jacob is the embodiment of compassion. Through compassion, we're able to redeem the point of the heart that has a love of God and is truly connected and can flow outwardly in our lives today, not just in times of Mashiach. We can have that today. As we expounded upon in the first part of Tanya in chapter 45, this idea that through compassion, that we redeem the inner love. Now, what is that compassion? What's that compassion? When we have compassion on another, and we are giving of our physical gifts of gold and silver, right? Of our things, we can actually affect that the mighty river, that flow from the source of that river, right? Again, also the point that is in the palace of the home, that through tzedakah, we arouse from below compassion from above. Because we had compassion down here for another by giving. By giving of ourselves. And again, the giving over here is a giving of tzedakah. Being compassionate for another who is in need and giving to them. That will allow that when we just through this, they can affect that mighty river to compassion in another arouses from here below upwards God's compassion that will then allow that mighty flow of the inward love that we have to be expressed. And as is known by the verse, skin for skin, meaning a person is ready to give, to protect one limb at the expense of another, or that a person is ready to give up everything that they have in order that they should live. So, likewise here, we should be able to give up in order that we can live with our true selves, the true love that we have inside of our soul that is in exile, that needs to be redeemed. So when we have compassion by giving the things in my life to another, meaning my money, to another, then, to redeem, in order to redeem my godly soul. In others, I'd be ready to give up all my money to have good health, right? Because what's money? If you need an operation, you have to pay for the operation, and you're gonna keep the money. Keep the money. What do I need the operation? No, you're not gonna think that way, because life is more dear to you than the money you have. So you're gonna use the money, for that operation, so you can have life, right? So here, speaking about a spiritual life, the godly soul, that it should be revealed, a deeper life. So you're going to use money, meaning your gold and silver, right, in order to redeem your soul that's in exile, that in order that it should flow like a mighty river, that love, that natural love that we have inside of us. How are we going to do that? By the fact that we are compassionate to another, that will redeem the inner love that we have. In order to illumine it with the light of life, the infinite one with Hashem. So, in other words, we can have today that self-expression of the inner light, life, and love that the soul has. So Andrew's asking, well, we have to go broke in order to be to reveal this love. I don't think it means you have to go broke. I think what it means is, for our physical life, right? We would give all of our monies to maintain physical health. Because what's the point of having all the money if you can't have, if you don't have good health? So, bearing that in mind, if I would use all that money for physical life, how about for spiritual life? So, likewise, you should have that mentality. Does that mean literally give everything up? I don't know if it means literally give everything up. It's an attitude of that we hold on to money because but to give it and being charitable in such a way, that's the attitude. Very, very powerful. With that, we conclude Essay 7. We begin and conclude the 8th essay. And tomorrow will be the finale. Tomorrow we will make a siyum, a conclusion of the entire Tanya. Because the following day, we begin a new cycle, Yutis Kislev, which will have a fabringen. We will start anew. So, essay number 8. The Alter Rebbe writes, I've heard things that are not so wonderful, and deeply grieved by it, says the Alter Rebbe. What is he grieved? That Am Hashem, God's people, are preventing to engage in real life and longevity of life, because they are having people who are leading the daily services in what's called a small sanctuary. It's a synagogue, the small sanctuary of God, amongst the Hasidic brotherhood, of people who are in a rush. So they want to get it over with, the prayers, so to speak, because they got to go to work, they got responsibilities, whatever the case may be, right? Says the Alter Rebbe, our sages in the Talmud say that of the things that prolong our lives, one of them is prolonged worship, meaning prolonged prayer. So even one is extremely pressed for time, who it's impossible for them to wait for all of the congregational prayers to be done, because they have to go to work, for example. They are responsible to be at a certain time at work, and they can't prolong their prayers. So as the Alter Rebbe says, these people are exonerated because they're compelled, because of the responsibility that they have, to be at work at a certain time. So since they're exonerated, they should not, first of all, lead the service in order to speed up the service. They're exonerated, and therefore the one who does lead the service will discharge them of their obligation of hearing Kedusha, Baruch Hu, and so on. The very fact that they will not even be there, but it will be done, that they were, in other words, they have to leave before this was all, these parts of the public prayer were done, being that they're exonerated, it's as if they did it, as if they fulfilled it through the leader of the congregation, the Chazan, the Baal Tefillah. It's as if they have fulfilled their obligation. They don't have to worry about that. Now, since they've fulfilled their obligation, they should not be under duress and create others to be under duress that quickly go through the prayers in order that they can finish their prayers and go and go do what they need to do. And this is particularly important in our generation, because in our generation, before the advent of Mashiach, the main thing is not Torah study, but the main thing is prayer. Even though we are, learning Torah right now, but the main thing is prayer. And therefore prolonged prayer, which means contemplation, meditation, is imperative that we do that, and we come to the Shema, which would be to know that there is a oneness of God, and the oneness of God, that we should come to love God with all our heart, with all our soul, with all our might. That love should be not just the godly soul's love, but the animal soul likewise has a love for God. And with this we can understand how we're commanded to love God. How could you command a feeling? It's because you need to meditate upon the greatness of God in order that you can then, based on that greatness, come to a feeling of love. So that's what the command is. Think about God. Meditate upon God's greatness. That you should then come in the Shema to actually have a feeling, a sense of love of God. And through that, love is not just the love of the godly soul, but the animal soul. And what do we fulfill through that? A refinement of the animal soul. Which that is what's important before the coming of Mashiach, is that we bring a refinement to the world at large and our negative element within us, which is the animal soul. That the animal soul also can come to love God. And not only the animal soul that comes to love God, but even the food and drink that we have in order to give us strength so we could daven. So the food and drink now that gives us the strength, it becomes refined. It becomes elevated. So it becomes elevated because it gives us strength that we could actually pray properly. And therefore the animal soul is elevated. The food that gives it strength is elevated in order that we should be connected and bring a refinement to us and to the things of our lives that bring us to do the mitzvah of prayer before God. And hence, make sure that whoever's leading the service shouldn't do it in such a way because they're in a rush that they rush everybody else. So this is our takeaway, that we should remember the importance of prayer. The words have to be said carefully and patiently. And prayer that's done with a lengthy sense of prayer brings us to longevity of life. And that is the end of the 8th essay. Okay, let me see some questions here, and then we will go. Oops. Vida. Why does it say the Mashiach will come and the merit of women when are obligated to pray more? When men are obligated to pray more? That's a good question. I don't know. I don't have an answer to think about that. Obligation doesn't make it, more. No, I'm not under the weather. Thank you, though. So is the light like a river flows from God as opposed to the drawing down of a light? When we speak about the soul, so we're speaking about that, the Pintel Yid, that point that's housed in us, or the source of the flowing river. So that's about us and the love that the natural soul, the soul has, that we want to reveal. So those are the metaphors. When we speak about God and creation, we usually use the metaphor of light. So maybe there's a distinction there. Alan, please share with us. Alan, you need to unmute.
Oh, I didn't know that you had asked me to speak up here, so I was just waiting patiently.
Okay, go ahead. Share with us.
Okay, so this has to do with Essay 8, and from what I'm extracting from it, which may be a little bit different from where the Alter Rebbe is going with it, but my sense is that, the words are important and you should be able to express them,
Mm-hmm.
And a good Shliach Tzibur should take this into account, which is what the Alter Rebbe, he mentions that a good Shliach Tzibur, a person leading prayer, should basically be kind of moderate in his pace so that people can keep up.
Absolutely, that's the point.
And for me, I was born with dyslexia, so. It takes me a little bit of time to both to read and to process, and it was always an issue for me, just kind of keeping up, which I felt really had a factor, it made it complex for me in terms of davening.
Right. Thank you.
The fact that I wanted to daven with kavanah, but at the same time, the thing is how to keep up. I was in Borough Park at the time, and they're like speed demons, like on the Autobahn.
Yeah, that's exactly what the Alter Rebbe is addressing. That there are people who feel, and he's speaking about people who truly are forced to pray quickly because they are obligated to be at a certain time at work, and the prayers are at this time and finished. This is what it is. So they shouldn't lead the service. They let them, finish quickly, fine, but not to spoil it for the others. And as you said, it should be a Shliach Tzibur. It should be someone who is leading the congregation in prayers at a moderate pace that people can keep up with, and people should feel, not rushed. Absolutely.
Yeah, but I feel in a certain sense that this is a bomb. This makes one feel better when someone is trying to daven with kavanah in a minyan, and things are going at a rather rapid pace. But it's just like, how do you get to the domain of the Shliach Tzibur, of the prayer leaders so that the problem is if the prayer leaders aren't on the same page with what the Alter Rebbe says, it doesn't matter much,
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what you do in that, I know that I feel that I'm in harmony with the Alter Rebbe's words here, but I'm davening in a minyan, and many minyanim have this issue.
Yeah. Totally. So what I
Right?
personally
So
do.
what does one do?
So what I personally do, for example, today, not that the minion went so quickly, but I was not able to keep up. So I just answered, to the repetition, and I did, all the answering, and I went at my own pace. And even though I didn't end up doing the Amida with the congregation, because if I would have done that, I'd really have to speed up and say words, broken up probably. And in the end, prayer is about the heart. It's with the heart, in the heart. So you want to make sure that you're focused in on that, and you're not just quickly going through the motions and saying words 100%. Yeah.
I'm glad to hear you say this, Rabbi Fein, because I think we hold you as a model, and it's helpful to hear about not only the lessons from Tanya, but from your own experience in implementing.
Thank you, Alan. Yeah, no, that's important. Sometimes I feel rushed because of an obligation that I have, maybe because of leading the minyan, maybe not being the shliach tzibur, being the rabbi in the congregation, but I try not to do that, and when I'm not obligated, with the minions, then I definitely want to make sure I'm going at a pace that is comfortable to me. If I'm needed for the minions, sometimes if you're 10 people and you're needed for the minions, so sometimes I have to forego things. But when I'm not needed, like being in a congregation where I'm not the responsible individual, and there's plenty of people or that there's plenty of people that can make up the minyan. So like Shabbos, I went at my own pace, and I didn't daven with the minyan, and went at my, what was good for me, that I could be connected. Because again, it's very important, and thank you, Alan, for bringing up the point over here. It's very important that prayer is unique in the fact that it is in the heart and of the heart, about the heart. As opposed to, of course, learning Torah is more in the mind, and other mitzvahs that we do are not about the heart as much. Now, everything should be to affect us in the heart, yes, but this is totally about the heart. So therefore, you want to make sure that you are focused in such a way that you engage your heart. So then, you need to have the tranquility and the peace of mind, and not the feeling of being rushed and just saying words. And if that means that you don't daven the Amida with the congregation, so be it. So be it. Because that's more that's, by the way, very much a Chabad sentiment. If you look in the Code of Jewish Law and in many congregations, it's more about davening with the minyan, that your prayers go up together, and there's something to be said to that. Absolutely, that your prayers are going together with a communal effort, on high. So there is something to be said to it. And if you can do that, that's great. If you can get both things in. But it shouldn't be at the cost of your personal connection in the words that are heartfelt.
So do you think that is kind of the direction of Chabad, largely because of essays like this from the Alter Rebbe?
Oh, absolutely. No question about it. Yeah, absolutely. And, again, sometimes to keep the congregational part in mind and the personal devotion and connection in mind, and to be able to have the best of both is sometimes, obviously you want to have that if you can, but the personal connection should not be at the cost of the congregation, unless you're in a position that without you, this the service doesn't continue. Right? If you got 10 people and you're going to sit in your Amida for a long time, that might be a problem, right? That might be. Yeah. All right, beautiful. All right, folks. Thank you all. Amazing. And just a reminder that we will be having a Torah class tonight. I don't know if it'll be exactly 6:30 just because of my flight, so it might be a bit late. And there's TRC tonight, also at 8 o'clock. And Rambam coming up. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from not Montreal, in Atlanta. Soon to be back in Montreal. Thank you all for joining. Have a wonderful day. A good vach. God bless you all.